Hello everyone and welcome to the Snack Bar. My name is Jerry and with me I have
Hi, I'm Jed.
yes, so I screwed up with the Captain Marvel recording, so we are gonna talk about Captain Marvel again. But this time we're gonna talk about two Captain Marvels, so that'll be fun.
Yeah,
But before that,
Captain's Marvel, like attorneys at law or,
mhm,
mothers-in-law.
mhm. Alright, so Jet, I know you wanna talk about something really badly, so let's just go with that. What do you wanna talk about?
Oh, are we opening with this? I thought we were putting this at the end.
It's okay. I
Okay.
think it's good to let it all out.
All right, yeah. So I've seen a bunch of movies. Do you want me to do the movies that I've seen first, or do you want me to do this thing first?
Oh, Star Wars is fine first.
Okay. Whoops. All right. Star Wars. Yeah, we just had the trailer, the teaser trailer for the new movie released. So just like 2 years ago, I went down to Can Hill Community Center at 12 a.m. to go and watch the live stream of Celebration Chicago with a bunch of friends. So I have a couple of friends who are actually there at Chicago right now, and one of whom got into the hall for this. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so it was like a 1 hour long panel that was hosted by Stephen Colbert, who is amazing, fantastic moderator. He did such a good job on the Hobbit panel at Comic Con like some years back, and did a great job on this one as well. And at the end of the panel, they screened the teaser trailer for the new movie for Episode 9, which we're now learning is called The Rise of Skywalker.
Do you like that name?
Yeah, I think we don't know what it means yet. So of course, what happens is immediately after a trailer is released, everyone is going to be annoying, jumping to conclusions and deciding exactly what the movie will be like based on the less than 2 minutes that we have seen. So what I've learned with the past few movies is I'm not gonna create scenarios in my head. Okay, the one scenario I've created is that Palpatine comes back in a sexy young cloned body, like they clone him and he comes back and he's hot, but his voice is the same.
Okay.
So it's Ian
Alright.
McDiarmid like doing motion capture. So it goes, how do you get these abs? Not from a
Okay.
Jedi.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I
the
seen that
one.
joke on your Facebook.
It is. Yeah, I've recycled it here because it works better with the impression. Yeah, so that's the one thing I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to. The opening sequence of that trailer is beautiful, shot in Wadi Rum in Jordan, which is
Oh, okay.
basically every single movie that has Mars in it, that's where they filmed it. So
Okay.
The Martian, Last Days on Mars, Mission to Mars, Red Planet, even Prometheus was shot there. So
Oh, okay.
it's pretty cool to see that location like not color corrected to super orange. And I love the use of like real places, real locations, which is a charm that the original trilogy really had. Like they filmed in Tunisia for Tatooine, and the opening sequence where Rey
Mhm.
is like facing off against presumably Kylo Ren in the new version of the Time Silencer. That really reminded me of how Genndy Tartakovsky stages action sequences in the animated Clone Wars series that he did.
Mhm.
Like there's almost a Kurosawa samurai movie kind of feel to it. I really like that. That's very stylish. So yeah, what before I go on, like what are your thoughts? What are your reactions to this trailer?
My thoughts are I really hope Kylo Ren doesn't get a redemption arc because I know this is a very unpopular opinion, but that Darth Vader character redemption arc was never earned for me. Like all
Oh,
of a
that's
sudden
interesting.
they
Okay.
decided, yeah, they decided, hey, I know there's some good in you. And it's like he killed millions of people. It doesn't matter whether he had some good in him. The thing is he did something horrible, and there's no way you can forgive someone like that. So Kylo Ren has done the same. I think he's killed hundreds of people, maybe not. Did he kill like a planet of people? I don't think so, right? But
Well,
anyway,
yeah, in The Force Awakens, like the Hosnian system disappeared because of Starkiller Base. So I guess that's a bunch of people that he killed.
yeah.
Like remember when
So
all
I
five of those planets like by
some
one, yeah.
people just can't be forgiven, and I think that that's an important message that no matter how much of a protagonist you are, how much your villains and your protagonists connect to each other, I don't think it's okay for Kylo Ren to have a redemption arc, and I think that this is a redemption arc for redeeming Darth Vader for me. Because you can't. It's
Yeah.
like saying oh, look at Hitler. I think I think he can be redeemed. It's like it doesn't matter whether he can be redeemed or not. The thing is, he did the things that he did, and some things cannot be forgiven. So that's why when I saw Rise of the Skywalker, I was thinking, oh no, they're gonna do it again one day. Because
Yeah,
it's by J.J. Abrams too, and he's very good at copying. And it's not easy to copy well, but he copies really well. So I think Kylo Ren may have a redemption arc.
yeah. So I mean, my interpretation of the title, The Rise of Skywalker, is the idea of Skywalker is the name of the new version of the Jedi Order. So it's kind of like how the Hogwarts houses are named after specific wizards.
Mhm.
So it's kind of so there's gonna be a House Skywalker. Like I don't know how literal Skywalker means because now of course everyone is saying, oh, Rise of Skywalker means somewhere in Rey's bloodline she's a Skywalker. Which I really hope they don't do that. I mean, okay, so another thing that kind of annoys me is everyone jumping on the idea that this movie exists to fix The Last Jedi, which takes into like I mean it assumes that The Last Jedi was not signed off on by J.J. Abrams, which it was,
Mhm.
and everything that The Last Jedi did, all the plot points in that movie was set up in The Force Awakens. Like Luke's fall, all of that was set up in The Force Awakens. So it's this strange thing that Ryan Johnson made the movie in a vacuum, which is not true. So again, a lot of the backlash against the new Star Wars movies kind of stems from not knowing how movies are made and
Yep.
not knowing how the system works. But I do think they are gonna lean very heavily on nostalgia, and I think that may be a way to try and win some people they have lost back. But I don't think this movie is gonna reset everything and say everything that happened in The Last Jedi didn't happen because when people use the word retcon, I think that's kind of dangerous because a retcon suggests, Days of Future Past wiping out The Last Stand, and this is not gonna be that. I'm pretty sure.
But even if Last Stand in what was that one, Days of Future Past, I don't think that's considered a retcon. It's more like a different timeline. I didn't feel that way to me because there is an explanation instead of just let's pretend that this didn't happen quietly.
Right?
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think my biggest problem with The Last Jedi was it's basically all the problems I had with Empire Strikes Back. So when people said, "Oh, this is nothing like Star Wars," I disagree so hard. Like it feels like a Star Wars film where characters do things that don't feel like it's what they would do, but because the plot tells them to do it. That's just me, of course, because I didn't grow up with it, so I didn't have time to interpret why characters do the things that they do. I just see what stories are represented to me, and I interpret from there. So I mean, I hope you like it, Jed. I'm sure you will, because you love The Last Jedi, and I hope the other Star Wars fans like it too, because I know what it's like to have something you love destroyed so badly. I mean, in their eyes. I don't know whether that's true or not, but
Yeah,
yeah.
so I mean, the way you approach Star Wars is a lot like the way I approach Harry Potter because I
But the thing
didn't
is, you
grow
were right about Fantastic Beasts being awful.
about the
No
second
one would
one.
argue
Yeah,
against that.
I,
Yeah.
I I I do like the first Fantastic Beasts enough, but the second one is so bad. Yeah, so going back to this, I think the like bringing back Lando and bringing back Palpatine, however they're doing it. The thing is like there's always the war between how much ground do you want to break and how much do you want to just serve people the same thing that they've gone become comfortable eating. And I think that is very true of a franchise which lasts like 40 plus years.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this is traced back to how The Force Awakens is a reboot for all intents and purposes. It's a reboot. It's a remake of A New Hope with the characters like swapped around a little bit, and I like that. But a lot of people don't like that, and I think like because it doesn't feel like the world has been moved very much forward in those 30 years. It feels like it's kind of a return to the status quo because it has to hit a lot of the same plot beats and the characters are on very similar journeys. But then The Last Jedi kind of like pulls that apart. And to me, The Last Jedi was very much an exercise in how much can we bend this thing without breaking it, which I like. but
Mhm.
there are people who didn't want it to be bent at all. Just
Yeah.
leave it the way it is. So that's the challenge that J.J. Abrams has, is in kind of finding an equilibrium. So to me, like, the behind the scenes stuff is always a lot more fascinating than the actual plot of the movie. I've never really been, I mean, as much as I'm a Star Wars fan, as much as I love the characters and the world, I love the behind the scenes stuff a lot more. I love, like, all the little things that they draw inspiration from, and the way the filmmaking technology is used well or used poorly in the movies. Because, like, George Lucas is very seduced by technology, and you see that
Mhm.
very much in the prequels. But then the prequels also have a lot of very good practical work, a lot of very good miniature work, which people don't realize because it's mixed in with a lot of CGI. So there's a lot of little stuff like that I like. And I think that when fans get upset about things, like, it's understandable because they've lived in that world. So I don't think I've ever really lived in the world of Star Wars as much as I'm a fan of Star Wars. And maybe, like, that ability to detach myself from it while still maintaining the part of me that's a fan is what makes me not overreact negatively. I think that's, I'm trying to, like, analyze that. So I think, like, it's I mean, I find episode one to be not a good film, but it did not make my entire personality hating episode one. So there are people who made their entire personality hating The Last Jedi, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, this trailer has just brought all of that back up to the surface. Where it's like, I've seen memes of J.J. Abrams in an edit suite, and then someone captions it, "Oh, here I am fixing all the things that Ryan Johnson broke."
Mhm.
Or I mean, the whole thing with the helmet, right? Like, Kylo Ren's helmet, he is stitching it back together in the
Yeah.
trailer, and people are
The
saying, "Oh,
metaphor.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right," because people are saying, "Oh, that's J.J. Abrams giving the middle finger to Ryan Johnson." But I mean, no, it makes sense in the story, right? Why did he break his helmet? Snoke told him it looked ridiculous, so he
Yeah.
was trying to impress Snoke. Snoke's dead now, so so it makes sense that he's like, yeah, I killed him, so I can be me again, and me is, I'm this cosplayer. So he puts the thing back on. And I love the idea that it's a little boy who needs the security and who's playing pretend, and he's back to that. He's back to that pattern. So yeah, we'll see whether or not it results in a redemption. I don't know how far I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you in principle, but the idea of, like, nobody can ever be redeemed because of the horrible things they've done in the context of the mythology, in the context of, like, the fictional Star Wars world, I don't think I super agree with that. In the context of the real world, I do, but in the context of, like, the father redeeming the son, I mean, that's still a very beautiful moment in Return of the Jedi. I know that you feel that it was not really earned, but to me, when I was 6 years old, when I didn't really understand, I still felt sad when he said, "Let me look on you with my own eyes," and you took Vader's helmet off. I didn't really understand what was going on, but I knew that it was sad. I knew that it was an important emotional moment for you. So yeah, it's does it make sense?
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not trying to invalidate what you're saying or anything. I'm just telling, I'm just like, that's where I come at it from. But I hope they don't do a straight redemption of Kylo all the same. I hope that it's very complicated. I hope he's fighting himself until the very end. I hope they kill
Yeah.
him, honestly. I hope they kill him,
Yeah. I
and,
hope they
like,
kill him too.
and you feel like, you feel sorry for him, but you also feel like, okay, this is the only way he's at peace, because he's
Yeah.
so messed up to the point where the only way for his story to end well is that he makes some
Yep.
kind of sacrifice, but it's not because he's 100% a good guy again. So I mean, that's always where I hope they will.
All right. So the only thing I have to say about the Last Jedi, sorry, not the Last Jedi, the Rise of Skywalker, is that I hope Kylo Ren dies because I don't care for him. Okay, let's go on.
Yeah,
Um, he's a good character. I just want to say that he's a good villain. I
yeah,
just
yeah.
think that if they're going into the redemption arc for him, then that just takes away how what a good character he is. Um, so let's go on to, well, I've seen Pet Cemetery. I don't know whether you have.
I saw Pet Cemetery as well. Yeah, we talk a little bit about that.
that's not really much to talk about it. I feel like the first act is a lot stronger than the final act, but I see a lot of people disagreeing with that because they say it takes some time for the movie to go along. But I like the character studies and I like the build up to it.
Yeah,
It's just I feel like the third act when it comes, it's very short. I feel like that's one of the shortest third act ever,
yeah, that's
and
actually true. I mean, I still thought it was effective, but it
mhm,
is like when the movie ends, you're like, oh, okay.
yeah,
There's a little bit of
and
that,
it
yeah.
it also became a slasher film at the end, which is I don't like that kind of horror film.
Right,
I
yeah,
I
yeah.
I love the slow build up, and I think it's also because I've never really seen horror films in general because they scare me, and I don't like being scared. But I started watching, like my first I think horror film was The Conjuring. Yeah, so um, it always started off with, oh, there's a horror, but the horror also comes from you caring about the family. And obviously, I didn't have that in Pet Cemetery because it was a classic horror film where it's all about the scary things that are happening on screen and not so much the characters are interesting.
That's very interesting because I felt like almost completely the opposite. I felt that in Pet Cemetery, I did very much care about the characters. And Pet Cemetery is a movie that I would describe as scary, but more than that, it's sad. It's a very
Hmm.
sad movie, and I think like that's why I liked it because all of the horrible things that happen are not necessarily because people are stupid or people make dumb decisions, but because they're sad. And the
I mean,
decisions might be
sorry.
done, but it's sorry, but it's the reason those decisions are made is out of sadness and out of desperation.
I yeah, I do agree. As in, uh, they it is sad, but I I feel like I don't care enough about the characters to make me go, "Oh, I will think about this for the rest of my days" or something like that. Like I when it ended, I managed to sleep, and I think that's a sign of me not
That it didn't
really getting
affect you that
anything.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. That makes sense. And I mean,
I just I
sorry, go
wish there
ahead, go
was
ahead.
more of those little kids in the mask. Like that was cool.
Yeah, the kids in the mask is such a great image. Also, I love John Lithgow. Like he is so good in this movie, and anything he's in,
Mhm.
he's good. I love the little Easter egg. Like the cat is named Church, right? So the little girl tells him the cat is named after Winston Churchill, and he goes, "Yeah, I know who Churchill is," because
All right.
he
So you
played
want to
Churchill
talk
in The
about?
Crown.
Oh, okay. I
Right?
didn't know
Yeah.
that.
In the first season of The Crown, that's John Lithgow under a bunch of makeup. It is a very interesting performance because he's American playing British, and he's I think the only one who's American in that season. And it's so unlike every other portrayal of Winston Churchill, but it really suited that series. My favorite episode of The Crown is the one where there's a painter painting Churchill's portrait. And the whole episode is just like a back and forth, almost like a struggle between the artist and the subject. And I love that so much. A lot of that was John Lithgow.
Uh, do you want to talk about Hellboy?
Yeah,
I didn't see it
good.
because yeah, I wanted to because I saw your review. Then I read more reviews. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not a good idea to watch it.
Yeah, okay, this is frustrating, right? Because I deeply love the two Guillermo del Toro movies. The second one, Golden Army, remains one of my favorite comic book movies ever. I
Mhm.
love that movie to bits, and I those like the original two disc DVDs that I bought years ago, more than 10 years ago, of both those movies are still some of my most favorite DVDs because they come with like a 2.5 hour documentary that
Oh, I
shows.
love those.
I
Yeah.
love those too, right? Yeah, so it's like all the way from Guillermo del Toro in the room, like looking at people's drawings, to them on the set, to like you see the people creating the animatronics, like figuring out how to put eyelids and eyes on the wing of the Angel of Death. And there's the guy showing you the program he wrote where it makes all of the eyes look at the same place when the wings move. It's nuts. And I feel like a lot of that care, a lot of that love was really missing from this take on Hellboy. And I was not going in saying I'm gonna hate it because it's a reboot, but it doesn't do itself any favors by having enough surface level similarities to the earlier films to invite comparison. So it's not like it's not doing the Hellboy thing completely differently, but it's doing it differently enough for you to recognize that it was done better. And that's a
Mhm.
problem a lot of reboots have, right? Especially when people still remember the earlier versions or when people have a fondness for the earlier versions. So this movie is supposed to be much gorier and much more violent than the earlier ones. It is, but at the same time, the problem is that like that's not how you make it better. Like violent and gorier means that maybe as a more of a horror element, but it doesn't necessarily make it more interesting. And after a while, you're just really numb to all of it. Also, in Singapore, they're doing this strange thing. The distributor's doing this strange thing of bringing in two cuts. There's a PG-13 cut and an M18 cut. And to me, that's super weird because in the US, this movie is just being marketed completely on the fact that it's rated R. There's literally a poster of Hellboy standing next to a giant letter R. And that's
Mhm.
their marketing campaign now in the US. It's like, look, guys, look at how bloody and violent and gory this is. But I don't think there's enough of a fan base in Singapore of like 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds wanting to watch Hellboy. I mean, it's not Deadpool. And
Yeah.
when Deadpool did a PG-13 cut, that was not just a recut. They filmed extra material to kind of bridge it, and it was a bit of a meta joke that they had like a sanitized, cleaned up version. But in this one, it's unwatchable. In the PG-13 cut, it's unwatchable because the action sequences make no sense. And they still left in like three F words, and it's still way too violent and way too gory to be PG-13. So I don't
Yeah.
know what purpose they serve. It was just a weird, baffling experience. And I don't know how much better it would be, the M18 version, because I'm sure it would make
Oh,
more.
you didn't see the M18 version.
No, no, yeah. When it was screened at the premiere, it was screened as a PG-13 cut, which I think was a very bad
Okay.
decision. So I was just trying to guess what goes where. I think like the main difference is really to just cut away before people are finally beheaded. But
Mhm.
you still see all the blood. You still see, you can tell what's going on, but you can't. So I don't think the M18 cut will improve the characterizations at all. And one of
Yeah.
my big problems with this Hellboy movie is that everyone is so unlikable. The whole deal with Hellboy is that he's a dude, right? He is a monster, he's a demon from hell, but he's been raised his whole life as a human being. And he loves human beings and he's always wanted to be a human being. So in the comics he loves eating pancakes, he drinks beer, he loves cats, right? And that's a huge thing in the Del Toro movies. He's just all the time surrounded by cats because he's a big softie, even though he's this like demon with a right hand made of stone. There's none of that in this movie. And in this movie, what sucks is the father and son hate each other. They hate, hate, hate each other. There's no love between Broom and Hellboy. Broom in this movie is played by Ian McShane.
Mhm.
So that was one of the
Waste
best
of a
things.
talent.
Sorry.
Waste of a talent.
Yes, absolutely. Like I do love Ian McShane. Ian McShane has that intellectual caveman kind of property to him, and I've always wanted him to be Vandal Savage because I think he'd be like a badass Vandal Savage. So anyway, sidetrack. Like in the previous movies, he was played by John Hurt, and
Mm.
there was a lot of tenderness and affection there, and it was very sweet because the idea was they were supposed to kill him, but he became attached to this little baby. He was offering this baby some candy. This baby jumps into his arms, and he's like, "I'll adopt him and raise him instead." So that has to come from a place of love. But in this movie, like you see it in the trailer, he's yelling at his dad, going, "You just turned me into a weapon," blah 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 blah. So you're not emotionally engaged in what should be the emotional core of the movie because they are still doing the father and son story, but they're not doing it in a way that makes you care. That was very frustrating.
So you don't recommend this movie?
Yeah, I don't, and it's a bit of a shame because when I saw the trailer, I was like, it still looks like it could be entertaining. It looks like it could be action horror, just like non-stop action horror, and it is, but it's kind of dull.
Mhm.
The CGI is very very bad in certain places,
I can
and
tell,
yeah,
judging the
it's
trailers.
it's awful. It's so bad. And while there are really good like practical effects, I think people are too used to how Ron Perlman's Hellboy looks to the point where they cannot accept how David Harbour's Hellboy looks. And people are saying that the makeup is very bad. I don't think the makeup is bad. I just think that it's just something we're not used to. Okay,
Mhm.
the one scary monster is Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga has done very well because that is mostly like a contortionist in makeup. But then there's a monster that runs around with like It's a giant pig man with a CGI head, and the CGI head is awful. Yeah. It's also a waste of Mila Jovovich because I love her as a villain. So number one thing I was looking forward to in this movie was Mila Jovovich being a seductive, like evil queen. She's just kind of boring in this movie.
Mhm.
And when like the final fight at the end isn't even very interesting, she doesn't really get to do very much. So yeah, this is a humongous disappointment. Also, this movie is heavy, heavy, heavy on the sequel bait. It ends with a sequel bait moment, and then there's two sequel bait post credit scenes.
Is it tracking well in America?
I don't know honestly. I wouldn't put a lot of faith in it doing very well because it's sandwiched between like Captain Marvel, Shazam, and Infinity War 2. What's the thing called? Endgame. Yeah.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
I would say that I think the marketing is good because I see it everywhere, but I don't know
Yeah,
how
it's
well it
it's
will
very
actually be.
heavily marketed. Like I mean, there's a mall that's just like slathered in posters for this. But yeah, it's confusing to me because I was ready to go in and watch like a fun, crazy action horror Hellboy. But this is just so dull and just made me dearly like I had to run home when I was like, I want to watch the Del Toro ones now. And
Yeah.
then that's what I did when I was free the next day. Like yeah, that's not a good sign. So it's a shame. I don't blame David Harbour, the dad from Stranger Things. The Sheriff Hopper from Stranger Things.
Mhm.
He is Hellboy. I don't blame him at all. It's just that the characterization it's weird. They say that he's supposed to be younger, so he's kind of a whiny teenager and he's a bit petulant. But he's if he came to Earth in World War II, he's at least 75 years old.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense. Like yeah. So that's Hellboy. What a
Mhm.
shame, honestly. Yeah, what a shame.
All
Go
right.
and watch
So
the first
let's.
two.
Yeah, I haven't seen them, so I will.
Oh, you haven't seen
Um.
the Del Toro Hellboys?
No, because I thought that was horror,
Oh no,
but
I think you might like them actually. Yeah, I think you might like them
because of the
because
father son thing.
yeah, because of the father son thing and also because of the friendships. Because
Okay.
in the like it's a very lovable team, the main three.
Okay.
Hellboy, Liz, and Abe. Especially Abe, the fish guy. He's not in
Okay.
this movie. Yeah.
I will try my best to find a legal copy of it.
Yeah.
Can we quickly talk about the missing link because I'm really scared that no one's gonna see it. I don't think anyone's gonna see it, but missing link. It's a good film. Good characters. A lot of people complain about the character designs, which I disagree with. I think it looks interesting.
Yeah, I
Uh,
I like this. You know, I
yeah,
I think.
but
Sorry, go
at
ahead.
the same and oh, it's the animation is so fluid and so smooth. I can't believe it's stop motion, and I think it's well written. The music is quite okay, but I took note of the music, which I guess is a good thing. But anyway, it's a good film that no one will watch, so it's a Leica film. Yeah, poor Leica. I don't
Yeah,
think they
it's
marketed this film at all, to be honest. I didn't know it was coming out this week until I saw it on the cinema because I wanted to watch Hellboy. Then I saw, oh, it's a new Leica film. I'll watch that instead.
yeah, it's a very endearing movie, and I love the Link character, and I love the Lionel Frost character as well. I didn't super love the Zoe Saldana character, but I could kind of see what they were going for. Like this was obviously they were taking inspiration from Around the World in 80 Days, and
Mhm.
Hugh Jackman's character was supposed to be like a Phileas Fogg type, where he's this Victorian explorer who's not taken seriously and is kind of laughed out of this prestigious scientific society, so he has to go and
I'll be
prove
honest.
himself.
I'll be honest. Like I thought we were watching Paddington for a moment when he went into the explorers thing. I
Right,
was like, this
yeah.
is exactly like Paddington, but it's not as good, obviously.
So all of this, like, I think dates back to Around the World in 80 Days because the whole plot of that movie is all of that story was he has to go and prove that he can win this bet
Yep.
with this. So I think it's a lot lighter than it's the lightest Leica movie, when you say?
Mhm.
It's the least traumatic Leica movie.
Okay.
Even
I
Box
think Boss
Trolls had kind of a
Trolls
traumatic ending for the villain.
was it? I don't remember
He
anything from Boss
literally ate
Trolls.
too much cheese and exploded.
Oh, okay.
That was how the villain in that movie died. So even though Box Trolls was overall very happy and very light, like it was a bit scarring. This one doesn't have any of that at all. I really like the colonialism kind of message, and when the movie moves to Tibet, they had like a lot of cultural advisors. They were very careful not to be seen as mocking the culture, which I think is a kind of care that you wouldn't see in earlier animated movies, that they were very
Yeah.
conscious about it and like getting actual Nepalese actors and things like that to voice certain characters. I loved Emma Thompson. It's a bit of a spoiler as to who she plays, but her character is amazing. She gets all the best
Mhm.
lines.
Yeah, she
And
does.
yeah, it's very, very funny. I really like Zach Galifianakis. Like this is the best use of him. He is the best as like lovable, bumbling, like clumsy characters who are well-meaning but not necessarily super bright. So yeah, I kind of relate to that. Like the his clumsiness and his lack of familiarity with human customs, they do just enough of that. Like they could overdo it and make it really annoying, but I don't think they did.
All right, I think we better conclude because we probably are gonna over time for Shazam and Captain Marvel. So I really recommend this film. I hope more people watch it, but more I don't think they will. So well, Leica, that's Leica for you.
Yeah,
So
I,
let's
I I
talk
think
about.
families should go and watch it. It's a
Oh
good family
no,
movie.
no, I watched it in an almost empty theater. The adults were enjoying it. The kids fell asleep.
Oh no, okay, I see.
Yeah,
All right, yeah.
because it's very witty. Like the humor comes from the writing, not really a physical
Yeah,
humor.
it's Chris Butler,
Like a
right? So
lot of.
it's very like Englishy humor, like very British. I like that.
Mm. Okay, so let's talk about Captain Marvel. We talked about this before, but I screwed up the audio, so here we are
Yeah.
talking about it again.
So there is a fabled lost episode, much like the Spider-Man Homecoming episode, which is also a fabled lost episode.
What happened to that? I don't even know what happened to that.
I don't know. I think I
Okay,
still have my half. So if either of us become famous one day, like someone will have to find that.
alright. So, what's Captain Marvel about?
You want a really short version, right?
Yep.
Okay. Carol Danvers, played by Brie Larson, she is a U.S. Air Force pilot who becomes a superpowered alien superhero. And when she comes back to Earth to fend off an oncoming invasion of the shapeshifting Skrulls, she realizes that she's forgotten all of her previous life as a human being on Earth. So this brings her into contact with a young Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who is not yet the director of Shield, but is going to be one day. And she also reconnects with her best friend Maria Rambeau, played by Lashana Lynch.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's the short version.
So, we both really like this film.
Yes, yeah, we did really like this film, and this film has had some time to kind of come out and to see the reaction settle down, because the initial reactions are very violent.
Hmm.
Like a lot of people felt very aggrieved and kind of wounded by this movie.
Yeah, because Brie Larson is a feminist.
Yeah, and I mean, nothing she said was like, I mean, the misinterpretation of it was white men cannot watch this movie, which she never said at any point.
Yeah,
And it's like is this movie specifically for white men? No, and there's nothing wrong with that, because I mean, I
yeah,
watch a lot of movies that are not specifically made for the audience that I have in that they had in mind. I mean, E.T. was made for like suburban kids in the 80s. I'm not that, but I still really enjoyed ET, you know.
yeah.
So I like the idea of this movie being having like its own point of view, and the feminism is very much woven into the story. I don't think they're being heavy-handed with it at all. And then there's a very surprising kind of other political message, which is a bit of a spoiler.
And also, it's like I think Crazy Rich Asians, I still stand by to say that it wasn't made for Asians, it was made for American Asians. So I didn't really enjoy it as much, but I understand the significance of it. And I'm really happy for, American Asians to finally see themselves on screen.
Yeah, that's very very
And
true,
I
and
think
that's a very
I
apt comparison with the reaction to this movie.
yeah, and I really like Captain Marvel as a character. A lot of people said that she's too straight faced. She doesn't really develop, or she doesn't really have a character arc. But I feel like there is a character arc for her.
Definitely, yeah,
She's been told to do things and she follows them, and it bit her in the ass. So that is a character arc to me, and I think it's and I think there are good characters inside it. The Krills or whatever their names are. I forgot. It's been like 3 weeks. What they
yeah.
called again? The Krauss,
The Skrulls.
the Skrulls. Yeah, I love them as characters. They were good villains and other things.
Yeah,
Uh, and I love their designs. And I don't know, like I really the more I think about it, the more I do like it. And I think it's because the rebellious part of me is like a lot of people say that it's a very average first phase Marvel film, but like I liked a lot of them. I think Iron Man is a little bit overrated, but it's still entertaining. And I really love the first Avenger. So to me, when you say it's like a phase one film, I don't know. I disagree. Like, I mean, I don't take that like it's a bad thing.
same.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think
yeah.
like it
And I
being sorry, it being a phase one movie is by design. And I think it's weird for people because we have all gotten used to the huge event Marvel movies. So when there's something that is a little bit detached from that and stands a little bit on its own because of its 90s setting, the people are like, oh,
and, and it's like I don't understand why why we can't just accept that a woman can be good at something.
yeah, that's a big problem for people. Like, people ask me, are you a feminist? And I go, yes, I'm a feminist insofar as anything I'm remotely good at, I know at least two women who are better than me.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's great. I mean, that it shouldn't be something to be insecure about, but so many people are. And I love the amnesia thing because it means they're doing an origin story in reverse. So she starts off as a superhero and then discovers like how she got there. And the complaints about this movie about her being really stiff, that makes no sense to me because don't you understand that the whole point of her story is she had the humanity programmed out of her over 6 years as a
Yeah.
as a Kree operative. So her whole arc is her recovering her humanity. So you see her
Mhm.
like gain it back by spending time with Fury, by spending time with Maria and Monica Rambeau. And
And
those were little bits of the story that I really love because it was like it's the human connections that make her human.
and she also has good banter with Nick Fury, which I don't understand why people say that she doesn't have a personality.
Yeah,
Because she can joke if she wants to. It's her character as a soldier to not joke. It's like, okay, maybe I liked Captain America a lot before he became cool in The Winter Soldier or whatever. Because I liked that he was just a soldier that was trying to do good. And I feel like that's the same as Captain Marvel. So I didn't have a problem with her being, I guess, having a flat arc, but at the same time, there is some sort of arc for her. She's just trying to regain back her humanity. And her whole I I really okay. I said this before. Oh wait, I did say it before, but episode, was destroyed. But um, what I really love and what I relate to a lot in this film is how she feels. And when she feels, a lot of people assume she feels because she's a woman and not because she's human. And that's the kind of thing that I think a lot of people don't seem to understand, even feminists now, because a lot of feminism seems to be we have to do what the men do. That's our worth, which I totally disagree with, because to me nursing is so important. But a lot of women, they reject that idea, and a lot of people reject the idea of being stay-at-home moms, and a lot of women, they reject the idea of having kids because men think that that is inferior, and that's something that men don't usually do. So I I really like I don't know. I really like that part. What was I even saying? But like, I don't know. That's my idea of feminism. That you treat everyone as human, not because you're a woman you're expected to do things better, or because you're a man, you're not as good as us. But the way that they treat her, like any flaws that she has, is because of who. It's because she's a woman and not because she's human. That was a very weird tangent I went on.
Yeah, so the scene that demonstrates this to me the best is like it is very important to her the idea of falling down and getting back up again. And The scene where she's hanging onto the rope in boot camp and all the guys are laughing at her, and she's holding onto the rope and she's kind of scared, and I like that a lot. I found that she is a very relatable character, and especially the idea of her being a pilot and that the Air Force did not allow women to fly combat, so she had to find another avenue to pursue her passion of flying. And yeah, Kelly Sue DeConnick, who has a cameo in this movie as well, she said that Captain America, he falls down and gets back up again because it's the right thing to do. And Captain Marvel falls back and gets back up again because fuck you. And I kind of like
Yeah.
that. I mean, there is a bit of rebelliousness there, but at the same time, she's still a good person. She's still fighting for justice. And in this movie, when she recognizes an injustice, it really shocks her. It shocks her out of the pattern that she's been following, and she's like, I have to make it right. And I like seeing that in heroes. I like seeing heroes take on larger responsibilities than the specific missions which they're given. Like, oh no, the system that I've been part of is flawed. What can I do to make up for that? What can I do to be better? And
Hmm.
that's a huge part of her art. So yeah, do you want to quickly go into spoilers before we go on to Shazam?
All right, let's go on to spoilers.
Yeah, first off, is the Stan Lee cameo, which
Yeah.
is one of my favorite Stan Lee cameos to date. So the movie begins with a tribute to Stan Lee, where the Marvel Studios logo is just made up of all of his cameos so far, which is cool, which is neat. And I mean, so anytime I talk about this, I sound like a bit of a douchebag. But Stan Lee didn't do everything. He
Yeah.
didn't do most things. He was very good at taking credit for it, and he's a very good marketer, very good branding guy, a good guy who comes up with an idea and a name, someone else writes it, someone else draws it.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a bit of my issue with worshipping Stan Lee and like Stan Lee as the god of Marvel, because that cuts out
Yeah.
the contributions that Ditko and Kirby and all of the other important people, so many other artists like Romita did to these characters to bring these characters to where they are now. That's also why I like having cameos from newer writers and artists like Ed Brubaker, who wrote the Winter Soldier arc. He is one of the Bucky Stasis technicians in Winter Soldier, and then in this movie, Kelly Sue DeConnick, who wrote Captain Marvel, she shows up in the train station in LA. So
Oh.
the Stanley cameo is very cool because he's reading the script for Mallrats. He's practicing his lines. Mallrats is the movie by Kevin Smith. He has a cameo in it. This raises a lot of questions because within the MCU, Marvel Comics do not exist. Therefore, Stan Lee would not be famous as a Marvel Comics, kind of as the Marvel guy.
Hmm. Yeah.
So he would not be making a cameo in Mallrats. Mallrats is set partially in a comic book store, so all of that would be changed. So that's like peak celebrity paradox, which I really love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that I've
I
told
really love
everyone
that
who will
that's what
listen.
goes I love that that's what goes through your head. Because I saw it and I was like, oh, poor Stanley. Or not poor Stanley, it's like, oh, it's Stanley.
Yeah. I like
Uh,
she gave him a little smile and like he nodded and it's like that's nice.
yep. I really like the plot twist for the Skrulls. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
That they turned out
yeah.
to be good guys. And I really love the part where the main Skrull, whatever his name is,
Telos.
he yeah, he didn't care for the Infinity Stone or whatever that thing that they were going for. It's been 3 weeks, but he went there for his family, which I thought was really sweet.
Yeah,
Uh,
and we haven't even brought up the cat, which
yeah, I
I yeah
forgot about the cat.
I love the
I
cat.
love the
Yeah,
cat. There was not enough cats.
yeah.
I'm You lied to me, Chad, because I
I said
asked
there was
you,
enough cat. Yeah.
and I disagree wholeheartedly. Um, there was enough cats, and I loved what he became at the end. And I love his relationship with Samuel L. Jackson's character, whose name is escaping me right now.
Nick Fury. Yeah.
Nick Fury.
Yeah. Okay. So to me, like, what was so lovely is that even after Goose scratched out Nick Fury's eye, Nick Fury keeps him around in his office.
Yep.
And he's like, I still love you, I don't care. And that is so
It
sweet.
sounds like
Yeah.
a no, not really. It just sounds like a cat owner. They
Yeah,
just hate you, but you keep them anyway
that's
because they you love them so
that's what cat
much.
owners have to deal with. Like I love the meme when the first image of the black hole came out. It's like cat owners are very familiar with this image.
Mhm.
You just wake up. It's like thanks for showing me this. Yeah. So going back to Talos, which is a marvelous use of Ben Mendelsohn. Ben Mendelsohn worked with directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck on Mississippi Grind. alongside Ryan Reynolds. And then when they cast him as Talos, everyone's like, okay, generic MCU villain. And they purposely
Mhm.
misdirect you in that direction. They make you think that he's a generic MCU villain. But the Skrulls
Yeah.
are refugees. The Skrulls are kind of like dispossessed refugees, and they're hiding aboard Marvel's ship, and he's going there to rescue his son and his wife. And it's great because it allows Ben Mendelsohn to be friendly, which he rarely ever is. He is Hollywood's favorite middle management supervillain, and they gave him like a lot of humanity, like just the scene of him sipping from a fast food cup, which apparently is the same cup that Samuel L. Jackson drinks from in Pulp Fiction.
Oh,
The
okay.
stripy design, yeah, that's a little Easter egg. That's It's very sweet, and also I'm really really annoyed by all of the secret invasion theories because uh everyone is going Iron Man is a Skrull, Captain America is a Skrull, Thor is a Skrull, Hulk is Loki, Rocket Raccoon is a Skrull. And then it's like, yeah, very, very annoying because once you do that, once you just like switcheroo, surprise, shapeshifter, you sacrifice all of the character building that you've been doing all of this time. So while people think that it'll be very cool to adapt bits of Secret Invasion or to pull a switcheroo like that, I think it's very annoying. And so I'm happy that the Skrulls being mostly good and doesn't preclude that there could be extremists, there could be like a far radical faction. While the Skrulls are mostly good means that we will probably won't see, oh, suddenly Iron Man turns back into Skrull form. It's like surprise. I really don't want that to happen.
Um. Yeah, you said everything that I want to say. So you want to talk about the villain? I forgot whether I knew Jude Law was the villain or not.
Yeah,
I
Jude Law, because he's set up as what another thing that's very interesting, another thing that's very clever about this movie in terms of its like feminist components is that the idea of the guy who is purporting to help you, he's really holding you back. He's gaslighting you. I think that happens to a lot of women.
Mhm.
It's not just it doesn't just happen with a guy doing it to a woman, but it's often like that. And it's really interesting because in the term gaslighting kind of comes from the it's a stage play then was adapted into a movie, and the idea was the guy kept on turning up the lights, the amount of gas in the lights to make the lights look brighter than they were. And then when the woman said, "Do they look brighter to you?" He was like, "No, they don't." So that's where gaslighting comes from. I thought that was really interesting. I didn't really know that that was the origin of it. And that's kind of what's going on is that she is supposed to feel like this thing is helping her control her powers. It's like inhibited shit. But really what it's doing is it's holding her back. And the training is not to make her better, but to keep her controlled. And
Yeah.
to, yeah, that was so cool. So when she finally
And
realizes it and breaks free of that, it was like such a triumphant moment.
yeah, I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this because my company did it. There's this game called Other M that has a
Metroid?
character like, yeah, Metroid.
Right, cool.
It's kind of similar, like she has a commander that refuses to let her do the things that she does. Actually, it's for gameplay design, but it does come across as really sexist because it's like a man telling a woman what to do, even though she's clearly capable of more, and she listens to him because
The
no other
woman
reason.
the woman is Samus, right?
Yeah, Samus.
Okay.
So it kind of reminded me of that. So it was cool to see her just, because he keeps telling her, "Oh, fight me, prove to me that you can actually win me or whatever." And she's like, "I don't care. I know I can." And she just blasts him off, which I
Yeah.
thought was really
Ah, that was
awesome.
so
A
great.
lot like I know a lot of people didn't like it, but it does feel quite empowering when that happened because it's why do we hold back, you know?
It does, yeah. It does feel empowering. Even, I mean, even as a guy, I was like, yeah, go for it. And the thing is that you find that a lot online. You find a lot of men going to women, debate me, like fight me on my terms. And I think a lot of people who did not like that, well, they kind of felt like everything needs to end with a big action finale. But that's so weird because it's like when people were saying there isn't an arc, that she doesn't have a journey. That's a journey. The journey is
Yeah.
realizing that the people whom
She didn't
she
need to hold back. Or
exactly, yeah.
she and also she was being held back because she, yeah.
Yeah, and
It just
it's
it felt worth it, you know? Like
it did feel worth it. It felt earned because the whole thing is everyone is like you keep on hearing people saying, "Oh, Captain Marvel is so overpowered. Like, why does the most powerful being in the MCU have to be a woman? Why can't it be a guy?" Right? They just
mhm.
want it's that's just SJW stuff. But the
Yeah.
movie isn't about her flying around shooting people with photon blast. The movie is about how she gets there and all the struggles and sacrifices she has to make to earn it. And so by the end, when she's in like full on powerful Captain Marvel mode, you're like, cool, that's it's that it didn't fall out of the sky and hit her on the head. Like there was a journey to get there, and that's what the movie was about. So that's why when people say that this movie doesn't have a character arc or she doesn't have a journey, it really confuses me because she
Yeah.
absolutely does. It's just that it's so different from it's different, not fundamentally like philosophically different, but it's different in its structure and its presentation from the origin stories of a lot of the male superheroes. It's
And
different
also
from Captain America getting the serum or Iron Man being in the cave, but it's that same kind of arc.
yeah. And I bet you if like Iron Man or Tony Stark was a woman and he managed to get him herself out of that situation by building things, those people who are mad that Captain Marvel doesn't have an arc, quote unquote, they'll probably be mad that a woman got out of that situation by building things because they just don't think that it's possible.
100%, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like I mean, just recently I saw this thing about, oh, women keep on talking about equal rights until it comes to mining. Like, huh? Okay. All right.
I think the
Cool.
problem, I think people misinterpret what women want when it comes to feminism, and I sometimes I don't blame them because some feminists who claim that they're feminists are kind of sexist as well. They hate men for some reason,
Yeah, I feel
but
that
I
in
think
sorry, classic me cutting you off talking about feminism, but I feel that like my issue is that as in general the movement sometimes misses the forest for the trees. Like they
yeah.
pick the battles that people pick it doesn't feel like in the grand scheme of things that's what is worth fighting. Like it feels like
Mhm.
that's so it's there's a lot of two steps forward, one step back kind of thing with feminism, but at the same time it's not particularly my place to judge. That's just how I feel about how it turns people off as a movement and why people feel like
Yeah.
feminism is a dirty word when it shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
and but I think Captain Marvel is great for feminism because it's like if women want to be superheroes, they can be superheroes. And I love that idea of little girls. And I'm sorry, I loved DC as a kid. So like I never felt that insecure about being a woman. Although to be honest, I was that that girl that was like I'm not like other girls. I like getting dirty and I like martial arts and all that kind of stuff, which is really dumb.
Yeah, I think we were talking
But
about that in our Lego Movie 2 episode about like
yeah.
girliness is associated with weakness. So I think
Yeah.
like that's something that as far as we're saying that boys don't have to punch things to solve all their problems, we are also saying that it doesn't mean that if a girl likes things that are stereotypically girly, that means that they're less than. That means that they are common or they're normal because it's always like, oh, princesses are lame. But princesses
Yeah.
aren't lame. Princesses are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And princesses can be feminine and strong at the same time.
Yep. And I I think Captain Marvel is great because it gives little girls options. So you can want to be a princess or you can want to be a superhero or you can want to be both and become Diana and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I that's what I
So
love
that's
about
great.
Wonder Woman, that she is a princess superhero. That makes me so
And
happy.
and I think okay, I saw this this tweet recently that says, why are we not talking about this feminist? She's a bisexual. She robbed a bank. She stabbed three men, and she spit on a baby. And I'm like, that's horrible. That's we should not because it's such a douchebag thing, right? Isn't it to
Yeah.
spit on a baby and rob banks? Like that's not what we as humans should aim for because I think there are good sides of feminism or being or the female side of things, which is to be kind, to be considerate, to let out our to be able to emote ourselves,
Yeah.
and like that's something that we should be proud of, and
That's
to
something
become like
boys should learn, honestly. Boys should
yeah,
learn how to deal with their feelings and how
but at
to,
the same
yeah, that kind of thing.
at, at the same time we shouldn't do what men are looked down upon for, which is masculinity, because that sounds exactly like toxicness to me when I read that. Toxicity or whatever when I read that. That's horrible. So I think it's good that little girls have Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman to look forward to, because I really hope one day feminism isn't a dirty word and
Yeah,
we
and,
get our
and we were
shit
talking about how
and women get our shit together, and know that we shouldn't dictate what men do as value. So we look at men and we think, oh, why do they get to rob a bank? I want to rob a bank. It's like, there's some things that I wish could go away.
yeah, and I mean, okay, is she robbing the bank in the name of feminism? Or was there an
No, I don't.
army, or was there an army of feminists behind her also robbing the bank? These are questions that you have to ask. So I feel that yes, okay, there are like mean people and there are bullies on different sides, but overall, the anti-feminism faction is just much meaner and
Yeah,
much
I
worse to
agree.
people than the
And
pro-feminism faction. And I mean, you see that in the backlash to the Last Jedi, and you see that in
yeah,
how like Daisy Ridley and Kelly Marie Tran are harassed and abused off of Twitter, and you see that in all the death threats that people get. Feminisms
and
are sending
also,
considerably fewer death threats.
yep. And I think, like, there was this guy on YouTube. I don't know why he was gaining traction, but he was talking about how Brie Larson is ruining Captain Marvel and Marvel in general, and how fans won't go out to watch Captain Marvel because look at what happened to the Last Jedi and look at what happened to Han Solo. And
Yeah, look
in
at the
the end,
1.3 billion dollars that Last
yeah,
Jedi made, that failure.
and Captain Marvel is getting all these conspiracy theories on why it's doing so well.
Yeah,
I
Disney
recommend
bought
you.
out theaters.
Yeah,
Is my
I
favorite.
recommend you check out Screen Junkies News. Dan Morrow, he talks about the conspiracies behind the box office of Captain Marvel, and it's ridiculous how men try to bring like this positive change down, and it's horrible.
Yeah,
And
there's just so
yeah,
much of it. And it's so weird because I feel that we should be past this point, but we're not. And then that's why we need more movies like Captain Marvel. Because there was also the thing
just
of,
to
oh,
spite them.
watch Alita, don't watch Captain Marvel. And
Yeah,
there was a very good
to prove that they're
article.
not
Yeah,
to
yeah, that's
prove
right.
that they're not sexist. They pit women against each other.
Exactly. It's an obfuscation thing. It's a tactic as old as time, and it's also very, very annoying. If there were 100 Captain Marvel like movies out there, people wouldn't be doing that. So that's just proof that there need to be more. It's just proof that it doesn't need to be that a female like genre movie is a special thing. And we were talking also about the whole thing about oh, I much prefer Ripley as a feminist role model than Captain Marvel. I was like, why? Why can't the both coexist? Because Ripley is a lot like a man, and as she becomes more powerful, she becomes more masculine. That's a Jim Cameron thing. That's why he had a problem with Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman like is very feminine and beautiful and graceful and elegant and like has her hair and makeup and everything as she goes into battle, and he doesn't like that. He's like, if a woman wants to be badass, she has to be gritty and grimy and dirty and like a man. So that's the only version of a strong female character that exists for James Cameron and for a lot of people, and I understand why that is. That's why there needs to be a bit of a change there, and that's why I like that Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman can coexist and give us more, because the market has spoken. We want more, right? And that's what happened in 2005 when we had like Catwoman the previous year, and then Elektra that year, and the film industry was like, okay, clearly the problem is that the main characters are women, but that was not the
Yeah,
problem. The problem was that they were bad movies. You've seen
and
like,
even
yeah, go ahead.
and like you look at Captain Marvel now. It's still you may not like it, right? But I still think it's a decent film overall. It may not be the most amazing Marvel film ever, but it is decent. And obviously, we can't just settle for decency, or we can't just settle for being average, because how are we gonna improve like that? But it's still a good start, and it's not as bad as you think it is.
For sure, yeah. I think like
I shouldn't have said that.
a lot of people wanted it to be bad, and okay, if we
Mhm.
take away all of the, like, if we do the stupid thing, which is like, okay, no politics, right? Let's just look at the movie apart from politics. This is not actually possible, but let's do it. it's a fun combination of a 90s action comedy and a space opera. And those are two genres I
Yeah.
really like. And the movie like mashes them up in a very entertaining way because those two genres don't really go together, but the movie makes them go together. The whole chase in the LA metro, like it reminded me so much of Speed, also known as the bus that couldn't slow down. So I mean that's stuff that I enjoy. That's stuff that's entertaining, and I don't think it does the space stuff as well as Guardians of the Galaxy because Guardians of the Galaxy feels like Star Wars. This feels like Star Trek. But I liked it, and I think that this myth that movies are suddenly political now is a myth. Like
It's
movies have,
bullshit.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Superhero stories have always been political. Superman is an illegal
I
immigrant.
Yeah, and I think it's also like you didn't understand that it was politics back in the days, but now that you're so accustomed to seeing politics every day of your life, you look at everything politically
Yeah,
because that's how the world works. Okay, but anyway, let's quickly go on to something lighter
yeah, I
in
think
Captain Marvel.
that's about it. I mean, like, yeah, I really like this movie. I think that her being, the one who's gonna save everyone from Thanos, I think that's misdirection. I think that's a red
Mhm.
herring. Like, it's too obvious. So
Yeah, and how
something
is,
bad might happen to
is she
her in
not
Endgame.
yeah, and is she not going to be in Endgame until the last act? It's going to be a 3-hour film. I don't
I
think
think
she's coming.
it's the cat, it's Goose. Goose is gonna save everybody.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so let's go on to another Captain Marvel, but he's not Captain Marvel anymore because
Lawsuit.
DC DC fucked up. Yep. Let's talk about Shazam.
Shazam! Okay,
What is Shazam about?
so before we go to plot of the movie, like a quick note about the naming thing. This artificial rivalry between Captain Marvel and Shazam is very stupid
Mhm.
because, like, Shazam, Captain Marvel was originally published by Fawcett Comics, and then Fawcett was sued by DC because they were like, "This is basically Superman. You're ripping us off." And
Yeah.
then Captain Marvel was one of the most popular superheroes. He outsold Superman and Batman, and he actually had the first superhero movie in 1940, the first theatrical serial, even before there were serials for Superman and Batman. So that's kind of interesting that he hasn't actually, he has been on screen in 1940 and then now and none in between. So when Fawcett was forced to kind of close down and stopped publishing comics in the 50s, Marvel came in and created a character called Captain Marvel. We didn't talk about Marvel just now. Anyway, and
Mhm.
then in the 70s, DC like bought some of their assets, and in the 90s, DC absorbed them all together. So that's why Captain Marvel lives in Fawcett City in the comics. In the movie, he goes to Fawcett High School, and then they couldn't call him Captain Marvel on the cover. So they said Shazam, which is the magic word he says to transform. So in 2011, during the New 52, Jeff Johns was like, we might as well just call him Shazam. So that's why
Yeah.
he's called Shazam now. Yeah, quick. That's the brief history of the naming thing, and also why it is stupid to make it a rivalry between Captain Marvel and Shazam.
Actually, when were they sued? Like Captain Marvel was still but he was Captain Marvel in the comics, but it was
Yeah,
never called Captain Marvel.
yes. They could not say Captain
Okay.
Marvel on the cover. That's
On
all. Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
I
so
really wish they would just call him Captain Marvel, but alright.
yeah, it's kind of interesting because one of they originally want to call him Captain Thunder. So that's why
Yeah.
in the movie they have a little bit of an Easter egg where people refer to him as Thunder or Thundercrack.
hmm I would like to say that I find both of them coming out this close to each other cuter than it is political.
Yeah, it's adorable. It's like,
It's adorable, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
like it. It's
The
cute.
the
That
latest
two.
Captain Marvel and the original Captain Marvel just kind of hang out. Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I do think that they are competing, but in a sense, I think it's cute that two Captain Marvels are competing with each other. But I don't like. I hope both of them do well, and both of them are doing
both of
well,
them are
so that
doing
makes
well.
me
Yeah,
happy.
and
Yeah.
and both of them, I think like the annoying thing about it was that it was like okay, all the people who really hated Captain Marvel, who hated Brie Larson, they were like, okay, watch Shazam instead, and it makes Shazam look like a refuge for this kind of toxicity when it is
Mhm.
not. It is a very good-hearted movie, and that's the problem. It's like I did not like this good-hearted movie being associated with people who aren't, with people who obviously have like kind of bitterness and malice and are upset and aggrieved. So that was what disappointed me, was seeing this character who is a beacon of like positivity being associated with that. So that's what I mean by an artificial rivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
what's Shazam about?
Shazam is about a boy named Billy Batson, who is played by Asher Angel. So he's an orphan, and he is moved into a new group home with a bunch of adoptive siblings. So one of these siblings is Freddie Freeman, played by Jack Dylan Grazer, who is a huge superhero fan. One day, Billy Batson is magically transported to the Rock of Eternity, where he meets the wizard Shazam, played by Jaimon Onsu, who also shows up in Captain Marvel. The wizard Shazam says that he is dying and has been looking for someone to inherit his power for many, many years. But like I said, it's like offered it to so many people around the world, but finally the candidate that he's chosen is Billy Batson. And so Billy Batson has the power of the wizard Shazam. It's an acronym. S is the wisdom of Solomon, H is the strength of Hercules, A is the stamina of Atlas, Z is the power of Zeus, A is the courage of Achilles, and M is the speed of Mercury. So he turns into Zachary Levi. Is his
Yeah.
superpower, which is kind of great. So
And has none of those powers, by the way. Most of them.
yeah, he does.
Definitely not wisdom.
No, there's no S in the equation. So he shows back up to his home and is like, Freddy, you know about superheroes, can you help me figure this out? And he has to defeat the evil Dr. Sivana, played by Mark Strong, who believes that he is the rightful inheritor of the wizard's powers, and he commands the seven deadly sins, demonic entities who like go around and kill people, I guess. That's that's a summary of Shazam. I lost steam towards the end.
I'm gonna say this because I do like this film, but my biggest problem and something that I just can't get over in Shazam is
Shazam!
how Shazam, yeah, the kid and Zachary Levi don't feel like the same characters. And I understand that when Captain Marvel becomes, what are we gonna call him? Can we just call him Captain Marvel just to, because like, his name isn't Shazam or whatever. I don't know. How about Captain Sparkle Fingers? I like that one.
Yeah, I like Captain Sparkle Fingers too. Go ahead.
Okay, so when he becomes Captain Sparkle Fingers, and and in the comics, I think like he becomes a totally different character. I get it, but he's like the older version of Billy, so he's wiser, he knows better, and like that's it, right? But in this version, I don't know why the kid is. I know why the kid is sad. Like he's just being a teenager. He's angsty and stuff, and he's just sad about his life and his situation. And then he becomes Zachary Levi, and it's okay and he's having fun and it just that disconnect is just too much for me because something happens on in the later part of the film where you can see two characters being one character and it doesn't it really doesn't make sense for me and I wish they wrote it better. Like you did see the kid having a little bit of fun before he became Captain Sparklefingers, but like the kid is given all the dramatic stuff and Zachary Levi is given all the fun stuff. And those two never really converge. Like even during the sad moments with the kid, when he becomes Sparkle Fingers, like he's fine. And I can't stand it. I couldn't stand it in the film. It's a fun film. Like I love the dramatic stuff and I love the funny stuff. But I just wish that they wrote this one character better because individually they're fine, but they're not individual characters. They're the same character, and it just I couldn't stand it. It really affected my enjoyment of the film.
Okay. Yeah, I totally get it, and I think that's that. I have a friend who really didn't like the movie, and he said that it was because it was too New 52, and like Billy is supposed to be this very pure, good-hearted character, and he isn't really that. So why this wasn't a problem to me is the way I get what you mean, but I rationalize it as that Billy can only be himself in his Shazam form. I'm just gonna call him Shazam. Is that okay? Because Sparkle Fingers is a lot of syllables. As Shazam, it's kind of like yeah, he can be himself. He can like he's not encumbered by. It's almost as if he is given the freedom to be the kid that he can't be as the kid, and that to me was sad and interesting at the same time because he's always wanted to be a kid, but the circumstances and the sadness of his life have kind of prevented him from doing that. So when he looks at Freddy enjoying himself and being geeky and being passionate and fun, he wants that as well. And he has that only when he turns into Shazam. So that was my interpretation of them as separate characters. Like that there are certain writers that write literally Billy Batson walking next to Shazam. Like
Mm-hmm.
they are literally two separate characters. So that's always been something which depends on the writer. Like to what degree is Shazam just a grown up Billy Batson or a separate entity that they kind of like live in the same body. I think like that's
Yeah.
my interpretation of it is that Zachary Levi is the character, is the kid that Billy wishes he could be.
But it doesn't, for me, it doesn't come across that way because the kid just, because of the circumstances the kid is in, I don't think he's ever been happy. So like to have him suddenly, and he doesn't really care about superheroes as well. So when he suddenly gets superpowers, he just, it just felt like a whole disconnect to me. I don't know. Like I can't imagine them being the same characters. And if their intention is that they're both different characters, then it's weird that the kid has the sad stuff and the adult has, despite all the Shazam stuff that he's supposed to have, he becomes a kid in the end.
Right, and that they did cast Asher Angel after casting Zachary Levi. They had to look for
Hmm.
someone who looked enough like him to be believable as a young version of him. So yeah,
But the thing is, I think Asher Angel, he did a really good job at the dramatic parts. Like there was one really sad moment in this film that he has to act the crap out of, and he
yes,
did such a good job. Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
felt so bad for him.
yeah.
And I think the writing for the individual characters as Sparklefingers and Billy are good. But
But they don't feel like the
when
same person.
yeah, but when you see them as the same person, it just doesn't work. Oh, by the way,
Okay,
I love. I think I'm talking too much bad things about this. Like this is really my huge problem. But I just want to say that I do love this film. I think it's very fun, and I think. Oh, another thing I don't like about this film, which is not really a bad thing, I guess, is that I love the relationship between Asher Angel and the kid who plays Freddy, and I wish we saw more of that.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I think the kid who plays Freddy is so good. I know
Jack
he's
Dylan
in
Grazer,
it.
yeah.
He's in it. I didn't watch that. I should. Um,
Oh, he is
I
in
loved
it.
him.
Yeah, that's right.
He he's such a fun character, and like I I I I wish the part where he was upset at Billy, felt a little bit sadder.
Right, yeah. When they
But
had their
yeah,
disagreement, like it was resolved fairly quickly.
yeah,
They did the
and
romantic comedy and second act misunderstanding thing.
yeah, but yeah, I really like his character, and I wish we had more of that relationship going on. Oh, sorry. So, what do you think of this film? I ranted so much.
Yeah, I really like this movie. I think that what we are seeing with the DCEU is very interesting because I think what we are seeing is that rather than rebooting all at once, the DCEU is kind of like deconstructing itself before our eyes and then putting itself back, which is very interesting to me because something like this, something like Aquaman, I mean, Aquaman, I think was a very big rejection of the Zack Snyder mentality of everything has to be badass and tough and it's all about how cool people look because Aquaman
Mhm.
was not afraid to look extremely silly. But it was like, we are gonna have fun with this and we believe in it. We're not making it silly to make fun of it. And I think that we have that a lot in Shazam as well, which was very much inspired by Big, to the point where there's an homage to the scene with the piano on the floor in the toy store in Big. And I like the idea that this is a movie that remembers superheroes were originally created for children, and there's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that. And the movie does have very intense moments, it has very frightening moments, but those feel like,
I was frightened.
yeah, yeah,
I'll be honest.
the villain does like this despicable, awful things.
Yeah, and like we're talking about this conference scene, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
The
it
conference
is
scene is great.
so scary. Like the things that they don't show you is scary as well.
Yeah, so to me, that really reminded me of it was kind of the kind of scary that something like Gremlins is or something like Monster Squad is like it's the scary of an 80s live action movie made for kids.
Yeah.
Stranger Things is very much that way as well. Like when it's scary, it's a bit Stranger Things scary. And I like that. I thought that there was not an inconsistency in the tone, and that when people were saying that it's childish, like the character is a child who says a word and turns into a superhero. Like if it's not childish, then there's something wrong with it. So I think that childish is not a bad thing, as much as
Yeah.
silly is not a bad thing, and that goes back to my favorite quote, the C.S. Lewis quote about how when you keep on praising things as being adult, that means you're childish yourself, because the most childish thing is to want things to be adult and cool because they're adult. So that's what I like about what the movie Captain Marvel, the movie Shazam means for the DCEU.
Yeah. And also, if you miss the Zack Snyder kind of Superman sadness in DC universe, you always have the new Joker movie, which looks amazing.
I just imagining like that being sung to the tune of "Summertime Sadness" by Lana Del Rey. Superman sadness. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Joker movie. And okay, this brings up another interesting thing, because the Joker movie is not going to be connected to the DCEU, and I think that there's something
Hmm.
DC can do that Marvel can't. Like Marvel cannot do Marvel zombies, because that would confuse the hell out of people, and also
I
I don't
think I
think they.
think they're doing an I think they're doing an Elseworlds for Disney Plus. Like that's the rumor.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, What If is an animated series. So I like
Hmm.
the idea that the movies are Elseworlds. Like if we
Yeah.
get a Joker movie, that means maybe we can get a Batman Beyond movie, or maybe we
Yeah.
can get a Superman Red Sun movie, and hopefully audiences will be trained to know, okay, doesn't have to be every DC movie that comes out is directly related to Justice League. And
Yeah.
I think that Aquaman was already actively trying to make itself like it takes place in the Justice League universe, but also not. I know that I have a friend who said he was kind of bothered by how like Batman and Superman are completely pop culture figures in this movie. Like people have Batman and Superman toys and are wearing like Batman, Superman, and Aquaman and Wonder Woman shirts. And I mean I like that, but I also see the point of view where yeah, people wouldn't really know Aquaman exists to the point where there's Aquaman shirts yet. And it's like this is much more conducive to the MCU than the DCEU, there being like a fanboy culture around real life superheroes that doesn't super fit with the DCEU, but it also is kind of charming. I always like when people are holding toys in superhero movies.
Do you want to talk about the villain, Mark Strong? I thought he
Yeah,
was decent.
as Savannah, yeah, I mean, I really like that he was playing it straight.
Yeah.
He was not being goofy, and that was a lot of fun. And he does have a sense of humor, Mark Strong there, so you can kind of see him like I think it was the right pitch of villain. It was a scary villain, and I think like
Yeah, it was.
it was a scary villain. It was a villain who was like had no problem threatening children, and
Yeah.
I like that they gave him a backstory. Like it's a very generic backstory, but it still kind of works. And him being a one-dimensional supervillain works for this story. Like
But
I don't necessarily need him to be Killmonger.
at the same time, I also like, he's clearly that character that is supposed to mirror the main character, where this is what happens when you have a family that hates you or that
Right?
doesn't treat
Yeah,
you well, and this is what he could have, or this is what Billy could have become.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
then obviously you have Billy, and he has, the opportunity to be loved by a family who does care for him, where the environment is so loving and everyone is so accepting of him.
yeah.
So
It's the cautionary
it
tale.
yeah, so I do like that they gave him a sad backstory, that he was so emotionally abused and always put down, and with the whole toxic masculine, I can't say that word, toxic masculinity.
Masculinity thing. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
true. Like his whole deal is like as a kid, a lot of his trauma is his dad telling him to be tough.
Yeah.
And that's very true. It's very relatable. And I love that his dad is John Glover. John Glover, please stop having bald evil sons. It is becoming a little bit
Yeah.
of a problem. Stop it. I also like that John Glover he's in another DC movie. He's in Batman and Robin.
Superman? Oh,
Yeah.
Batman and Robin. Was he?
Yes. He played
Oh, I
Jason
thought he
Woodrue.
was in a Superman. Oh, okay.
He played he's in Smallville, but he was in Batman and Robin before that. He played the guy whom Poison Ivy kills, the first Poison Ivy killer, mad scientist with the crazy hair.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that scene where she comes
Nope,
out and she's
I
yeah?
don't.
So if you Google John Glover Batman and Robin, he's in it. He also voiced the Riddler in the new Batman Adventures. So this guy's all over
Okay.
DC, and I thought it was such a great like little reference casting when he showed. I did not know he was going to be in the movie before I watched it, so I watched it. I was like, oh, John Glover is Sylvana's dad. Is it this? We're starting to see
Yeah.
a pattern emerge. He's great on Smallville. He's so like I love how many issues Lex Luthor has on Smallville, and how many of those issues are directly related to his father.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Uh,
so yeah, that
can
mirrors it.
so I was thinking maybe we do like a rating thing. Like out of 10, how would you rate this film? But instead of saying a number, you say things that's not really related and not really helpful
Yeah,
to Shazam.
15 finger sparkles out of 10.
Okay. I forgot what I rated it on my status. Let me go look for it. But anyway, I told you do something I didn't follow through.
Whoops,
But
yeah, we had this in the notes.
I guess I would rate it. They are not the same character out of 10.
I like that. I
Uh
like that too. Yeah. I super love the female lead. I love Mary Grace Fulton. She's
yeah,
wonderful in
she's
this
very
movie.
cute.
Very cute.
Yeah.
She was in I think Annabelle
Uh
Creation for this director. So
oh,
so that's
that's
where
cool.
yeah. It's kind of interesting, right? That like two Conjuring directors are doing DC movies.
DC films.
Yeah. And Annabelle herself had a cameo in Aquaman, which I kind
Yeah,
of love.
I saw.
Yeah, that was
I
funny.
thought it was in Shazam. I guess not. I remember it was like in a shop or something. But okay, let's go on to spoilers.
Yep, spoilers for Shazam.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
were you
think
expecting the Shazam family?
no, and
Oh,
I think
cool.
that they shouldn't have put them. It's way too early.
No, I
It
liked it.
it really should have been, because I think it's good that they bring the whole family together. But like I said, one of my biggest problems with this film was it was they really should have just focused on Freddy and what's his name and Billy's relationship more, and before you expand it out to the entire family. Because I do like the family dynamic, but I think Freddy, like he all of a sudden Freddy calls Billy his best friend or something,
Right,
and I
yeah.
felt like that was really
And
unearned
it's
because
not
they
earned
just
yet,
met.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really wish that they just focus on a core relationship first. Focus, like, put all your cards on that, and maybe have a little bit of family thing, and um. Because I think one of the things, I forgot whether this was a thing or whether I just had it inside my head, where Freddy didn't like that Billy had superpowers because he didn't really use it for good, and like he's given this power and he doesn't really use it well.
Yeah, that's right. He's using it to get likes on social media and he's like busking.
But at the same time, it's like Freddy kind of made him that way
That's
too.
true, yeah. Like the
So I
guidance
wish
was
both
from
of
Freddy.
yeah, so I wish both of them learned their lesson, and it really should have been about both of them, I feel. But that's just my take on it. A lot of people, they say they love the third act, which I'm assuming is the Marvel family part.
Yeah, I do
And
love the Marvel family. Yeah.
and you see, the Marvel family part was my problem too, because they casted so well. Like the adults acted like the kids,
Yeah.
especially the littlest girl. I've got her name.
Dala, best
Dala, yeah.
character, yeah.
She's so cute,
Faith
and
Herman,
like
yeah.
when she turns into the Shazam
Into Megan
family,
Good,
like
yeah.
she acts like the little
Yeah,
girl, and
Megan
it's
Good acts
great.
exactly like the little girl, yeah.
And yeah, and Freddy is the same as well.
Yeah,
Adam
that's right.
Brody, right? I
So
forgot.
Adam Brody, yeah. So what is very interesting is that two of the members of the Marvel family were cast in Justice League Mortal. Adam Brody was going to play Flash, and DJ Cotrona, who plays the adult Pedro, was going to play Superman. It's just a cool fact. I mean, Justice League Mortal was the Justice League movie that almost happened but didn't happen with Armie Hammer as Batman. Megan Gill
Oh
also.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's right. So I thought I think there has to be an intentional part of bringing them into this, just like
Yeah.
how Lionel Luthor, John Glover is reference casting. Yeah, and
I just
Ross Butler, who plays the adult Eugene, is half Singaporean, which is cool.
and I think this is I think when that happened, the Marvel family thing happened, I thought this was way too soon. They didn't earn this. And
Okay, yeah,
at this and also they really should have casted a kid or wrote a kid that was like Zachary Levi.
Okay, yeah,
I looked at this and I was thinking, so they clearly know, like, when you become a Shazam or a Captain Sparkle or whatever,
yeah.
you are more or less the same character. So that
Just like
makes,
scaled up. Yeah,
yeah. And the joke where he can't hear what the villain is trying to say, I realized in my theater, because it was quite full and I watched it on a Friday night, I realized that a lot of people didn't watch Kung Fu Panda 2. And that made me really upset. Because that line, that joke is stolen directly from Kung Fu Panda
the
2.
gig where he's a bit too far away. The
Yeah.
gag, yeah, the gag where he's too far away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. I love how Mark Strong played it. Like it's like
He
they'll
just
be
talked.
eating out of the palm of my hand. Yeah, it's great, yeah, because it's like the thing that he didn't have, which is a loving, supportive family, is what defeats him in the end. So, yeah, poor Savannah. Yeah, but I mean, Savannah is not Killmonger, and neither does he need to be. I had a friend who complained about the editing of the carnival fight. I kind of get it, like the flow of getting
Yeah.
from Savannah versus Shazam to the family fighting each of the sins. Like it's a little bit choppy,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's very charming that the climactic action sequence is a fight in the carnival rather than like we're knocking down every building in the city. Because
Mhm.
I like the scale of this movie. It's kind of an intimate like small movie, even though it does have like big superhero action moments, and I think that suits the tone of the story very much. Where it's a story about a kid, you know. So if it was like humongous globetrotting like world-ending stakes. Like I don't think it would have suited this movie. So the scale was very clever.
Uh, is that the conference scene is really scary.
Oh, so great! Yeah,
I felt so uncomfortable watching it.
that reminded me of RoboCop.
Like the part where everyone was screaming, like you hear the noise, and
Yeah,
then the guard goes towards the
and then you
window,
see
and suddenly you see
the
people
body like
getting
slammed
dragged, and
against. Yeah,
yeah, it's like what's going on? What a
it's
weird
great. Yeah,
tonal difference, but yeah, that was really scary.
and
And the
it's
part where the woman just dusted, that was scary
oh yeah,
too.
the poor scientist, like she totally didn't deserve that. That was a nice like shock when the Monsters Inc. door like kind of disappeared her. Yeah, like I think that it's scary in the way that 80s movies are scary.
Mhm.
And that's why I think that it isn't as jarring tonally as some people feel that it is. But at the same time, I get that like okay, maybe you don't want to take a 5 year old to this. Like
Yeah.
the a 5 year old would be scared by the seven deadly sins. I think if I saw this when I was 5 years old, the seven deadly sins would traumatize me.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love the line about lust being not hot. That was funny. It's like lust should look way
Sorry,
hotter.
what?
When
Oh,
they're describing each of the seven
yeah.
deadly sins, right? And Billy was disappointed that lust is not sexy. And then when he just uses his powers and allowed to go to a strip club, oh, it's so sad. Yeah, so like
And also, they revealed that one of them is probably gay, which is kind of cool.
yeah, because it's the strip club. They are was it like a male strip club or like a
It was probably a male strip club.
oh okay yeah
Yeah. Oh,
uh
sorry, a female strip club, but meant for males. If
oh
that's what you're asking.
oh okay yeah, but meant for males. All right. Yeah, I mean, it has that feel of a kids movie from the 80s. I'm a sucker for that. I mean, The Kid Who Would Be King is a little bit like that as well, but this is obviously like a bigger budgeted movie. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. I also really love the credits animation, the
Oh
paper and
yes, that's
it,
super cool.
whereas like Batman is yelling for Alfred to come and help him, and Shazam steals the Batmobile and takes Wonder Woman to the prom. It's kind of funny. Did you have people who were very, very angry that they stayed for the final post-credit scene?
Yes. I mean, they weren't angry. They were like, oh,
That's
whatever.
I love it when that happens. I mean, the best example of that is the Spider-Man Homecoming Captain America Patience PSA. It's like
Oh, is it? I don't remember.
where if you stay all the way to the end of Captain of Spider-Man Homecoming and you're hoping for a second post-credit scene, instead you get Captain America telling you that sometimes when you wait for something, it might not be what you want, and so you're disappointed.
Oh,
Yeah. Ah, that was good. Yeah, so I think that about wraps up Shazam. I'm interested to see where they go with this. I'm interested to see how they do Black Adam because like Dwayne Johnson did produce this, so I think he's still involved in Black Adam.
Yep. I hope so too, and I'm glad it's doing well.
Yeah.
Uh, by the way, all right. So this is the end, but I just want to ask you the Avengers Endgame tickets went on sale. You didn't get it, right? You got a media thing going on for you,
Yeah, I think so.
media screening. All right. It was quite funny to see people getting upset over that. I'll
it
be
it
honest.
was quite funny. I mean, it was also funny to see people boasting about that they had the ticket, as if like
Yeah.
they'd gotten into Comic Con.
And like
Yeah.
honestly, I think like
It's a very like
people,
Singaporean herd mentality thing. I'm sorry, this sounds so judgmental, but it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's also like I also did that, by the way. I I will totally admit that I was such a douchebag for showing off that I got the ticket. Not only did I just get the ticket, I was like I didn't have to wait in the queue
Yeah.
because I booked it after everyone
Yeah,
else, which is true.
you bought the chocolate bar and then it had a golden ticket in it.
Yeah, and I was like I didn't expect to get it
And
anyway,
then it's
but
smash cut to you as a blueberry. I regret all
I
of it.
I managed to get I managed to get my tickets, but it's like at 9 o'clock, so I'll only be back home at 1 a.m., which is always great.
That's true,
Um,
yeah. It's a long ass movie, but you know,
yeah.
it needs to be. It needs to be 3 hours.
So yeah. So we don't really have any interesting stories to share about the Avengers tickets then.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what
It's
ha
really weird.
yeah, it
Like I
is.
think it's I I don't understand why people would sell it for that high. I
Oh
understand like
yeah,
if
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
con.
Okay, so I mean, I have no idea when this episode is going up, but there's apparently a charity screening on the 24th itself, and I
Okay.
think it's $50 that part of it goes to charity, and it's organized by the Jane Goodall Institution.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
yeah, so if you want to
But
watch it
I'm
there, do watch it there. Yeah.
I understand if it's a concert, but this this movie will probably be on for probably 2 months. So you have all the time in the world. So don't
Yes,
buy that.
and I mean, eventually you can download it and get it on Blu-ray, and you can't do
Yep.
that for a literal physical concert.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't get like $500,000 or whatever, but there was like I think one of my friends made a parody listing of the vibranium class ticket. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. I the only reason why I'm watching it on the first week is
Oh,
because
I do declare.
I'm afraid of spoilers.
I understand. Yeah, I
And
think
I'm also afraid of hype because the last time I watched a Marvel
Black
film
Panther.
after all the hype was Black Panther.
Yes, I
And it
remember
was
that.
so. I'll be honest, I was very traumatized by how much I didn't enjoy Black Panther
I understand.
because
Yeah.
I think that the hype really got to me and
Yes.
I was expecting the best, the next Lion King, and it just wasn't. It
Speaking of
felt like
Lion
Lion
King.
King. No, I don't want to talk about it. It looks awful.
Yeah, so
I don't want to see a photorealistic lion get mangled and trampled to death. Ah, it's
yeah,
horrible.
I
I
mean,
don't want it.
the most I'll say about that is it's so interesting to me because the whole point of the Lion King musical is that it's non-literal. The whole point of the Lion
Yeah.
King musical is that it's very impressionistic. It's using all of these devices that do look completely unrealistic, but it's creating the kind of magic. You have to suspend the disbelief of okay, I can see the puppet, I can see the performer's head, but that doesn't that adds to the performance. And it's like the way they do Mufasa's ghost in the musical is so insane, and then the movie
Yeah.
is like we'll just do 100% literal. So it's kind of funny to me that yeah,
Ugh.
because I actually would like to have seen a movie that was a movie adaptation of the musical, that was the
I'll be
musical
honest.
done against like a CG background.
I'll be honest, Jed. I don't think I'll be watching Aladdin or Lion King because I don't want to.
But
and I don't
are
want
you
to
gonna
support
watch
Disney.
Dumbo though? I did like Dumbo.
No, I didn't watch Dumbo because I can't be bothered.
No, I
I
liked
didn't
it.
like. Okay, I don't like the original Dumbo because it's way too sad.
This is
So I'm not
actually
gonna watch a live action
it's
remake.
actually much less sad. And the funny thing is it's less sad because of the human characters. Because the human
Yeah,
characters are the support system for him. So while he is separated
yeah.
from his mother, there are other people who are actively trying to help him get back to her. Like the kids are
Okay.
saying, "We'll get you back to your ma," you know. And
Yeah.
then there's like one of my favorite characters in the new movie is a snake charmer. He's played by the
Does the
actor
mouse
Roshan
come?
Shah. There's
Is the mouse there?
the mouse is more like an Easter egg. It's a mouse that wears the
Ugh.
costume, but the mouse is not a real character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like a snake charmer character who's a man from India who like touches the head of Dumbo and says, "You are a magnificent creature. You're a beautiful creature." You know, and I love that very much.
Okay.
So I like that. It's a bit less sad because of that. Still sad, but it's less sad.
Yeah.
I watched it with my mom, and my mom loved it. My mom said that as a when my brother and I were kids, she couldn't bear to put on Dumbo because it cut too close to home.
Yeah. It's the mom thing. It's horrible. But okay, so next week I don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't.
really want to
Yeah,
watch. I really want to watch Fighting with My Family.
yeah. I'm actually kind of looking forward to that as well. I think Florence Pugh is gonna be a superstar. I think she's gonna be like the next like Keira Knightley or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll see her in a bunch of
So
stuff. She's
we'll
also
see
gonna be in
whether
this movie
it's
called
worth
Lady
discussing.
Macbeth. Yeah, we'll see what it's worth discussing. If not, eventually there will be an Endgame episode, I guess,
Yep.
because I
And
love our
and I can
Infinity War episode.
and 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 we can watch it on the first week.
All you peasants who have to watch it few days
I'll
later.
pay I'll pay $500.
Yeah,
But yes, please support the Jane Goodall thing. It sounds
yeah.
very good.
Don't pay
If you're
five
gonna
hundred dollars
spend
to
that
watch this
much,
movie. Yeah, and
if
it's
you're
on
gonna
the first day
watch,
anyway. The Jane Goodall
yeah,
charity screening. Yeah.
if you're gonna want to watch Avengers and pay that much money, support the charity.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks. This is
See
fun.
you.
I'm glad we got to redo the Captain Marvel episode after we lost it. Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah. I really wanted to do it because I have so many feelings about Captain Marvel and
Yeah, and
the
I'm
way
glad that
people
we were
perceive her.
very much on the same page with that. I didn't expect us to disagree more about Shazam than about Captain Marvel. Bye
Alright, so see you guys next week.
bye.
Bye. Oh, maybe not next week.